Welcome to Instant Analysis Wednesday practice before USC Michigan game. I'm Riley Sager. He's Connor Morrissette. Connor, started off as we usually do. Injury report.
Yeah, Riley. So the team is getting healthier. Jacoby Lane left practice. He looked very sweaty. So he didn't leave practice because he was hurt. He left practice after being a participant. Sorry to scare anyone. Didn't want to get off to a bad start there, so I apologize. He looks like he's trending towards maybe not being 100%, but being closer. So that was reassuring. On the other side of things, Elijah Page left practice, and he was walking out a little slow. He looked a little bit in pain. I still feel like he's going to play, but that didn't make me feel that great about it, so we'll just have to see how the rest of the week plays out with him, like Lincoln Riley said. Yesterday at practice, it sounded like he was doing a lot, so I think that's a good sign. Mekhi Lemon, he isn't hurt or anything, but he has a big thing on his finger taped up, so I think that was an issue that's bothering him, but he has not been limited at all. He's just playing through the pain, so that'll be something to monitor. Jakeem Stewart, who consistently misses the Tuesday practices, he was back out there on Wednesday in full pad, so that's great to see. And then Harry Dalton, he picked up an injury, I think a couple weeks ago. He's not participating at all right now. We saw him scootering away, so it looks like he's rehabbing, but it was just nice to see him because we hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, obviously the guys had a bye week, so that was nice. Just let their bodies heal. One of the players we talked to, DeCarlos Nicholson, he was a little bit banged up in the Illinois game, but he said, having that bye week was just perfect timing.
And he mentioned, too, how D. Reddick, he's really proud of D. Reddick, who came in and played some nickel after Kevin Longstreet got some run because Kamari Ramsey didn't play in that Illinois game. That was something that stood out to me about what DeCarlos talked about, because he hosted D. Reddick when Reddick was on a recruiting visit, and we know the staff has been really high on him, so that's great to see him progressing well. Danton Lynn had some thoughts on Reddick as well. He said, I was super impressed that D was super competitive. He understood the mistakes he made, just very excited about him. So it's really going to be interesting, Riley, to see how USC goes about playing at that nickel spot. Is Kamari Ramsey just going to be the guy and we won't see any D. Reddick and we won't see Alex Graham if he's healthy? Or is D. Reddick going to play there and that'll drop back Ramsey? Will Alex Graham be part of the equation? Michigan runs the ball a lot. Will there even be a nickel on the field like there's been for the majority of the season just because the passing offense in college football is out of control? So I'm looking at that this week. That's a huge piece of the equation, and we know Ramsey will be out there. How does that affect Christian Pierce if Ramsey goes back to safety? A lot to watch in that secondary.
Well, if the Illinois game showed us anything, it's that game time decision. You don't know what can happen, so you're just going to have to wait and see. Like we said, the bye week, anything else from the guys in terms of what that did for them?
Well, speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, Eric Gentry, without saying it, did sort of bring up the food poisoning thing. Because remember, Ramsey didn't play because of that, and Gentry, we reported, was not feeling well. And Gentry said, we had a rare scenario happen. We fought our best. We did everything we could. It's college football. Used a couple expletives. I'm going to replace those with stuff. He said stuff didn't go our way. We battled with some stuff. So he clearly felt like the defense was limited because of that, which makes sense when you're having two of your best players deal with that. And Gentry just kept going back to being excited. He was excited. I think the whole USC defense is so sick of just talking about that Illinois game. Danton Lynn said the whole group took it personally. They are ready to go out there and say, hey, that was 2 weeks ago. We had some extenuating circumstances. Sounds like the bye week has given USC a lot of time to just stew in that, and hopefully that will lead to better results. So Gentry kept going back to being excited. Jade Abasiri talked about how Gentry addressed the whole team, and he's been a huge leader throughout this whole thing. I brought up Devin Tompkins' name, and I'm sure Tompkins has done some leadership stuff as well, but then Jade said, no, it's been Gentry who's been really leading us through this. So USC will go as Gentry goes. Lynn talked about how Gentry's been playing a lot more off the ball and doing a nice job this year. So I expect Gentry to have a nice game. He played really well against Michigan last season. He seems excited to play against Michigan. He says he's excited, for every game, but I think this one's a little bit extra special when it's Michigan coming in.
Yeah, and obviously he's one of the older guys, veteran, leader on the field, and you can see when something goes wrong with the defense, like he's the one holding his players, his teammates accountable.
He says he treats Jaden Walker and Desmond Stevens like his kids, the linebackers in that room with him when he's an older guy, fifth-year senior, but Stevens, a sophomore, Walker, a redshirt freshman, like those guys aren't that far behind him. So that just goes to show kind of how Gentry goes about this whole thing. And he talked about with Kamari Ramsey being out, like, we just missed a really good ball player. So Gentry understands, like every USC fan, that losing Ramsey for that game was significant, and that will, of course, help against Michigan. So I know Gentry is really excited to have another running mate out there, a guy who he really trusts. Gentry was asked how did Ramsey's absence affect the team, and yeah, he just said, losing a really good player didn't help us, of course. So both those guys being back is going to be significant.
Yeah, just to bring it up real quick, Reddick, you were talking about him earlier, and with any player, you can look at the stats, you can see how they're playing on the field, but just us going to these press conferences and, post-practice press, just hearing the same names over and over from the coaches, from their teammates, something's going on.
Reddick, I thought played, I don't want to say really well, but played well enough to warrant the coaching staff's trust in him against Illinois. No one really on the defense played particularly well in that game, but Reddick came in, and you could see the energy and the passion that he played with. There are a few chunk plays that Illinois picked up, and Reddick would be on the tackle, so that's not great that they gained those yards, but he was showing fire, and he's a guy that Doug Belk has talked up the whole time throughout this recruiting process. I remember before spring practice when some of the assistant defensive coaches talked, we were talking about Jakeem and some other guys, and they said, yes, those guys will be good, but really pay attention to D. Reddick. He's going to be special. So the fact that he didn't enroll early and then got hurt didn't help his case, but now that he's overcome that and he's playing meaningful snaps is significant, and there's a reason why he's a good player.
Yeah. Speaking of Jakeem Stewart, back in pads today?
Back in pads today after missing Tuesday practice. That's been a theme with him. So we don't know exactly what he's dealing with, but yeah, on Tuesdays he hasn't been practicing in full. Today looks like he put the pads on. We don't know exactly what he was doing, but that puts him on track to play Saturday, because that's pretty much what he's been doing for the last few weeks, where he won't practice Tuesday but then practice Wednesday.
Anything else from the defensive guys in the interviews?
Let me see here. So Jade, I had a couple notes on him. He said the bye week was really helpful because his hands had been bothering him. He was just in a lot of pain in his hands, and he said the days off really helped. Eric Henderson's message to the defensive line was be physical. USC, they're so frustrated with the conversation about Illinois pushing them around and winning at the line of scrimmage. Like, I think we have to see some kind of a response. I don't exactly know what the extent of that response will be. Michigan's a good team, but USC, they are so sick of hearing everyone talk about that. So, not that Jade was sick of it, but you could just tell, talking to Lynn, just him saying that everyone on defense took this personal. And if I were in the position too, I'd be sick of talking about that too. So they want to right the wrong. So what does taking things personally look like? Jade Abasiri said, attacking practice and our improvement, that's what that shows. That's how we were taking it personally. And that was Lynn's message as well. The whole defense, they're taking this game against Illinois personally, and I can't wait to see how they respond.
That's definitely what it seems like. DeCarlos was saying, they're just ready to play their best version of themselves, and they haven't seen it yet. They haven't shown it yet. That's
what Cam Fountain mentioned, too. We got to get back to playing USC football. He didn't feel like they played USC football against Illinois, and that's just been the whole theme with everyone on defense. Because even before that Illinois game, they've been some up-and-down moments where big 75-yard touchdown against Michigan State getting into the 30s in general. Purdue had some explosive plays. So people on that defense, I think they're getting a little sick of the narrative around them, which is fair, that they have been a little underwhelming for the most part. The defensive line, I thought, was really good against Purdue, really good early in the year, but then the last couple weeks hasn't looked as good. Secondary's been up and down the whole way. Linebackers, besides Gentry, have sort of been up and down. So let's see how the bye week has impacted the whole defense. There are a lot of people saying, USC soft in the middle. Illinois' offensive line coach saying we knew that we couldn't out-athlete USC, so we had to put them in a phone booth. Michigan, one of their assistants, is talking about whoever the tougher team is at the line of scrimmage is going to win. Like, it's out there right now that the average to above average to really good Big Ten teams can go out there and out-physical USC. Let's see how they respond.
Yeah, I think almost, at least the guys that I heard from, everybody was asked about Bryce Underwood, the Michigan quarterback, freshman. What do you think their thoughts are on him?
I asked Jade Abasiri, is there any difference when you're preparing for a true freshman, a guy who just doesn't have a lot of experience, or is there any kind of excitement in that? And he said it's just another quarterback. So with Underwood, USC, they're not going to call out anyone by name, but they have to be looking forward a little bit to a guy who only completed, I think it was 9 throws against Oklahoma, and he's been good, but he hasn't been great, as you would expect for any true freshman to be. Legs are dangerous. You can see the ceiling on him. He does that nice sidearm throw. You can make all the throws on the field. He has a ton of arm talent. Michigan's also dealt with some drops. They're still getting on the same page with that passing attack. So I do think for the USC secondary that we've all lamented and talked about how, hey, they got to get better, it's a nice week for them where it's the defensive line's job to set the tone this week. Michigan's going to come out. They want to run the ball with Justice Haynes, set up the pass, and there shouldn't be as much pressure on the USC secondary. We'll see. Anything can happen on any given Saturday, but that's sort of how this game is setting up. And I do think deep down the coaches and players are excited to go up against the true freshmen, even if they won't say it.
Yeah, I think one of USC's biggest concerns should be just the long runs.
Yeah.
Michigan, one of the best teams in the country in terms of 40, 50-plus yard runs. And Lynn said it starts up front, controlling that, stopping the run. Like we said, amazing rushing attack. Like, UC knows. They've had a bye week. They, dealt with it against Illinois a bit more than most fans expected. So I think they're ready.
It's time to set the record straight, Riley. That's why Saturday this game is so fun. Michigan, they have some confidence after winning a couple games in a row. USC, they were that team that was punched in the mouth defensively a couple weeks back. Didn't get a chance to respond last week. Now it's their time to shine. We know what the situation is. One of these teams is going to leave the Coliseum Saturday with their second loss, which will make it really hard to make the college football playoff. It's a battle of who's for real and who's not in some ways. And for USC, especially on that defensive side, what are you going to do when everyone right now is saying, oh, it's same old USC? I expect some changes, but we'll see.
Two amazing programs, historic programs, back in the Coliseum, 4:30 kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
NBC. Any closing thoughts, Connor?
See you at the Coliseum. It's going to be a sold-out crowd. I hope you got tickets. If you didn't, you have to buy them in the secondary market. That stinks. They were probably pretty expensive, but really excited for this one. Should be a great crowd, and see you Saturday.
Thanks for tuning in. Instant Analysis Wednesday practice before Michigan game. Coverage tomorrow preview.
Yeah, we'll be on Tunnel Vision on YouTube at 7, and stay with USCfootball.com all week for full coverage.
I'm Riley Sager. He's Connor Morrissette. Thanks again.